Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by Astral Asset Management. It's Wednesday, the 18th of January, and we have Lee Kian Soon, CEO of Astral Asset Management, coming to us out of Singapore. Now, Kian Soon, great to have you on the show.
Good afternoon.
Now, Kian Soon, before we get your insights, we're going to take a look at how the regional numbers stack up and also the cryptocurrency numbers. We start with Bitcoin, which has nudged past the 21,000 mark. It's now 21,269. It's up 0.53%. Ethereum is at 1,584. It's up 1.11%. Now, looking across to regional equity markets, we've got the SGX, which is up 0.43%. Bursa Malaysia is down 0.4%. Shanghai is unchanged. The ASX All Ordinaries is up 0.11%. The Nikkei is sharply up at 2.56%. The Hang Seng is down marginally at 0.02%. And rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is down 0.65%. It's a pretty mixed bag, Kian Soon, with the outlier being the Nikkei, which is up sharply. Tell us why.
I think the regional markets have taken directions from the United States because we've seen a good rally in the past week for the US stocks. I think for the last 2 days, the US market and the regional markets have been taking a breather. As for the outlier in Japan, the reason is Bank of Japan has just announced that they will not raise interest rates. They will keep the interest rates constant. And I think that is generally positive for the Japanese stocks market.
Now, we want to put the microscope on Singapore today. And in many ways, Singapore is a canary in the coal mine in terms of regional and global economic performance. It's often first into a recession and often also first out of a recession. Now, we start with the trade data that shows that in December, non-oil domestic exports has declined more than 20%, and it's the third month of decline. What are your thoughts on this, Kian Soon?
As you mentioned, Singapore is definitely a canary. And what we have seen is a big slowdown in terms of the non-oil domestic exports in the past few months. December numbers was alarming, but it's also come as no surprise, mainly because if you look at the IMF reports for 2023, the forecast is, I think, more than 1/3 of the whole world will be in recession. And given such context, it's not a surprise that the export numbers are coming down. We will likely see the sectors that are going to be affected are the semicon, the tech, electronics equipment, as well as the chemical sectors. Definitely is also because there is a slowdown in terms of all the tech and tech equipments and manufacturing, chips, etc. And therefore, we are witnessing such a trend.
Now, Kian Soon, on the flip side, we've got a recovery in the tourism sector. Where is that recovery coming from?
So we have seen the 2022 numbers. The recovery actually is coming mainly from Indonesia, India, regional countries. And we have received 6.3 million tourists, which is around 1/3 of what we used to get pre-pandemic. But not to forget, 2022 is not a full year for tourism, mainly because the Singapore fully reopens after April with all the relaxations of immigration measures. And even with visitors, 6.3 million visitors coming to Singapore, the actual spend, right, is around 14 billion, which is like half of what we achieved pre-pandemic. And this number shows that there is some kind of revenge consumption. I think the positive side of this trend is the visitors number will continue in 2023 to increase. And that's a good sign for consumptions for tourists and hospitality sectors, because the numbers coming in is likely to be around closer to 18 to 20 million visitors, which is closer to what we used to get. But I think the forecast is only by 2024 can we expect the tourist arrival numbers to go back to pre-pandemic levels. Of course, just to add, the Chinese tourists will be coming. I think they are still sorting out the flights, immigration issues, domestic COVID issues. But once this is over in second half 2023, I think with their arrival, Singapore tourism industry is definitely going to benefit.
Now, Kian Soon, looking at the Singapore economy as a whole now, with the IMF saying that 1/3 of the world's economy is going to be in recession, what is your outlook for Singapore's economy for 2023?
My outlook will be Singapore will be a mixed bag based on the factors we just discussed. But if you look at the signs of recession in Singapore, I think first of all, the most apparent one will be Europe, then followed by the United States, and then we'll see that happening in Singapore. So there is a sequence. Everybody wants to put an exact timeline. I think it's always difficult, even for economists, to forecast the exact point of a recession. But if you look at the flow and the sequence, I think that is how it will play out if there's a recession. I think the bigger question everybody wants to answer is, would the recession be a deep one, or would it be a quick and shallow one where there will be a follow-up by a quick recovery for the regional economies?
Do you foresee that, and many investors are looking at the reopening of China as a panacea, particularly for regional economies like Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, with the influx of not only tourism, but also opening up of the supply chains and also consumption from Chinese consumers? Do you hold that view?
I definitely hold that view. I think it will definitely help the regional markets if China reopens. I think the bigger question is, how fast could they do this? How fast would the supply chains, the production, industrial production all resumes? I think from the commodity prices surging, we could see that there is anticipation that the demand for raw materials will increase, mainly because the Chinese producers are already restarting their production lines. So you'll be an interesting period where we are waiting for China to reopen to create a positive energy for the regions, but at the same time the whole world, as forecast by IMF, right, particularly United States and Europe, will be slowing down in the coming year.
Now, Kian Soon, it's always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on.
You're most welcome.
Now, we've been speaking to Lee Kian Soon, CEO of Astral Asset Management, coming out of Singapore on BizTech's Asian Midday Market Watch, powered by Astral Asset Management. I'm Brian Fernandez. This show will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. It'll also be on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.